Rikki, really appreciate the opportunity to sit down today or this afternoon and to be able to talk through a little bit around your career, the work you're doing today, and also some of the interesting travels you've had recently as well.
Great.
So maybe to begin with, you could just give a little bit of introduction to yourself, how we know each other and you know us a little bit as well through to what you're doing today.
Sure. So I'm Rikki Douglas. I am Managing Director of a small and medium enterprise business. I actually came in contact with Davida around, it must have been 2017, 2018. At that time I worked for a defence company, FTSE 250 company, and we were looking at our strategy, how we went to market, how we would ensure we won, and we went through the strategy and action process. Since then, I actually went through the process 3 or 4 times. So I'm really familiar with your whole philosophy. We found it to be very, very useful, and ultimately that business ended up being sold to a private equity company.
No, I appreciate that. And for the context of the conversation today, I'm going to say you can very much feel free to park our methodology, park our approach, and what will be really interesting to do is to have an open, unscripted conversation around your experience, not just with that, but in building and executing strategy as a whole.
Yeah.
So maybe just to begin with, you can give a little bit of an introduction overview of the world of electron microscopy, the type of work that you do, the type of customers you serve, because I think a lot of people aren't that aware of what that type of work involves. So a quick synthesis would be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, we're actually specialists in sample preparation for electron microscopy. So before a sample goes into an electron microscope, it needs to be treated in such a way that enables the sample to be imaged very clearly. So that sample may need to be coated, may need to be dried in a very specific way, or frozen, with the ultimate aim to try and keep the sample in as much of a natural condition as possible to allow the researcher then to look at that sample. In reality, almost everything in the world comes in contact with electron microscopy, whether it be in radiopharmaceuticals, materials, in car manufacturing, anything that you would need to study the surface of a life sciences sample, and that means that our team are involved in projects all across the world with many different university academic institutions, as well as really large organisations, high tech. So the work's quite varied.
And what are the predominant type of customers or use cases that you're selling into and that you're serving? Is it predominantly laboratories in research centres, in universities, in other higher education facilities? Is it going to the private sector?
It's actually all of the above.
Okay.
So the majority of our work in the past has been in life sciences, but more recently it may be in battery manufacture, it may be in car manufacture, new materials, it could be in space research. It really depends on what activity the customer is trying to do. But any owner of an electron microscope in the world potentially could be a customer of ours. Yeah.
So in terms of the organisation you lead, Quorum Technologies, are you designing, manufacturing, and also then supporting in the life cycle of that piece of equipment? Which stage of that journey do you support on?
Actually all of it. So the original concept, design, manufacture, supply, support, and selling into the market. But we've got 3 routes to market really. We've got end users, so we work with end users directly here in the UK. We also have a network of distributors around the world that distribute our equipment. And in addition to that, we work with the original equipment manufacturers, so the OEMs in electron microscopy, of which there are many, but there are a big 5. So we try to work with all of those manufacturers and keep everything as fair as possible.
And we were chatting about this just before we started filming, but I can imagine for an industry which is at the very forefront in a lot of ways of some very important technological advancements and very important research which is conducted, as you said, it is also relatively niche with a small number of players.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of collaboration even between competitors? Is there collaboration with the OEMs, for example?
Absolutely. So There may be an OEM that's a competitor one day, but we're working on a large project with them another. Depending on the area of the world, we may be working with different partners, maybe our competition in some cases. All of it's really about the mission really is for the customer. What do we need to do to help the customer achieve what they need to achieve in their research? So.
Absolutely. So let's park that for one moment and let's go back to the bigger picture of your journey through strategy work, but also really through leading teams. How has that adaptation been from the world, as we said before, of Ultra, where it's a truly large-scale organization with truly large-scale business units within it, to the work that you're doing now with a smaller team? How's that adaptation been in terms of building strategy, executing strategy, leading teams, and ultimately making those teams accountable for delivering results?
Well, I think we went through the process with yourselves with Ultra, and that's quite a structured process. We identified really early what we knew and what we didn't know. Many of the business areas were complex with different business models. A lot of businesses have been purchased and then they've been integrated. So it was quite a complex environment. But I think moving towards a smaller and medium enterprise business, it's easier to define what you know, what you don't know.
Okay.
I think certainly the work we've done with yourselves around understanding the market has been very helpful, because we've been in electron microscopy for over 40 years, and often you don't know what you don't know, and it's very hard to ask that question when you're an expert in the field. So I think having someone come in externally and help validate what we thought we knew was very helpful for us, and it's allowed us to help us make really good decisions in terms of where are we going, where are we spending our R&D, how best to support our customers in the future, how to collaborate with the OEMs. So again, I'd say the principles, despite the businesses being so different, are exactly the same.
And whether it's bringing in external support or not, you were saying that it can be quite difficult within an industry where you're perceived to be experts, leaders at the forefront of it, and actually almost look in the mirror and admit that we don't know everything about this, we don't know everything about our customers, we don't know everything about those that we work with from a supplier standpoint. Did you find that a challenge? Is there a bit of a cultural hurdle to overcome?
I think certainly for me, because it was brand new for me. I went, from originally nuclear into defence and then into electron microscopy. It's so different that I was the person that was able to ask those silly questions. Why is that the way that we say it is? Why have we done that? Would it be better to do something else? And obviously for any business, the market changes continuously, so it's really important to keep on top of that. I think the work we've done so far has really given my team confidence to be able to continue. So to ask the right questions of the OEMs, to find out about the electron microscopes sold around the world, to understand the challenges a customer's got in terms of their workflow, all of that really it helps. The more data we have, the more information we have, and the better decisions we make. And again, I think just being completely, new to the industry has really helped, certainly helped me.
And are there challenges internally with trying to galvanise or include a team in that process, especially as you said, when you have individuals or small teams that have been within the organisation or within the industry, I imagine, for 20, 30, 40 years themselves?
Yeah.
Is it difficult to get them to go on that journey with you as well, of saying, we don't know everything about this, there is more that we need to know in order to take better decisions? Am I right in that, or?
To be honest, it can be very difficult, but it really depends on the environment that you create.
Okay.
So we made it really clear, it's okay not to know the answer. That's great. To not know is fine. To not go and find out the answer is not okay.
Yep.
So
that's the criminal part.
Yeah, we took the approach of, we know what we know, and collectively we knew a lot more than we thought we did. We were able to define that, write it down, and then validate it. And we go through the iterative process then of updating and validating what information we know, gathering information from the market, from competition, from customers. And again, all of that helps us in the future. Are we going in the right direction? Are we making the right steps? What do we need to do differently? Things change, but to be honest, they don't change too much. Yeah. But we're stronger because of the work that we've done so far.
Yeah. So in terms of your journey, moving into a new business, into a new industry, a very different type of organisation as well, the first thing that you said about doing with the team is to understand what we don't know today and really to build that analysis piece.
Yeah.
But also, as we were discussing before, that analysis piece, if conducted on its own, is just a really nice intellectual exercise. So what did you do to take that recently from a very good intellectual exercise to action and to execution and to accountability?
So there's a few things there, but it always starts with the team. So enabling the team, making them understand, helping them understand accountabilities and responsibilities, removing obstacles, and then just letting them do their job. You know, we're very fortunate at Quorum. We've got lots of very clever, very gifted people, and you know, we employ gifted people. We should let them do their job and do it really well. So we identified all of the things that we needed to do, our core challenges, what they were, what our key strategic initiatives would need to be to allow us to get to our ultimate ambition goal. And all of that, once you start getting success, you know, it just grows. People believe in the process and then follow that. A lot of it's around attitude and the types of people you have in the organisation. But again, we've been very fortunate that we do have some really gifted people.
And so much of what you talk about, or you have been talking about now, is around the people, the environment, the culture, and actually almost in your role being to set the structure and then get out of their way, if I can use that term.
Yeah.
How do you find that process, or what have you found to be effective in trying to build that type of culture?
Again, you've said it already, but it's all about creating the right environment. So creating an environment that people want to come to work, they want to be there. Again, when I first arrived, we had quite high turnover rate. People felt a little uncertain. Now things have stabilised really well. The team understand the mission, and we've created an environment where people want to come to work. So whether it be with benefits or employee area or flexibility in terms of working, but in return for that, we expect people to deliver, and you know, everyone's comfortable with that.
Yeah. But of course, in order to be able to deliver, as you were just saying, people need to have real clarity on what does it mean to win, what does it mean to be successful, and then how we're going to get there. Is there a way, and I don't know the answer to this at all, so maybe there isn't, but is there a way in which you visualize that and you present that internally? Do you review it, as some businesses do, on a quarterly basis? Do you present it in town halls? Do you have it up with, you know, as a poster on the wall? What are the tactics you employ to do that?
So we actually have company objectives that are published. Those objectives flow through all of the team, so everybody understands how they contribute themselves to the overall objectives of the business. That's on the short term. On the medium to long term, we have a strategy document, we have a record of vision, mission, measure of ambition, and we also regularly we review our key strategic initiatives, which we implemented again from the SIA. And we, as a team, we've identified our core challenges and what are the things we need to do to enable us to achieve where we want to go. So our group has a very ambitious, want to double the business in 3 to 5 years, and that's well known within the organisation, and that's the plan. You know, we're doing everything we can every day, all the time, to ensure that we meet with that goal. Now, with that comes challenges, market changes, politics, and all of that great stuff. But you know, we review those key strategic initiatives on a regular basis, and if we need to pivot and do something different, then we're agile and small enough to be able to go and do that.
But yeah, you very much did preempt my next question, in that I was going to say, for an organisation which sounds like you have quite a mature strategic process in place, you've built something over the last couple of years where people are really clear on what you're trying to achieve, but at the same time, you, just in the nature of the work that you do, but also in the customers you serve, you're relatively exposed to changes in the market, technological changes, political changes, environmental changes even in some cases, whether that's tariffs or whether that's the shift towards electric car batteries and the shift away from that. So how do you find the challenge but also the opportunity of navigating that quite volatile landscape?
I think for us, because we are a global business, so the majority of our business is export. Our largest market or territory is China. We're doing a lot of work in China, and second would be the US.
Yes.
So there's been significant issues, let's say, in terms of world trade. However,
fun and games, some people would say.
Yeah, but because our business is so widespread, the risk is also widespread. So we try to focus in those areas where we know that the trends in technology are coming. Battery technology, as you've said, is a really big area of work for us. But in the future, that will change.
Of course.
We also have one specific area of business for us is in cryo, so in freezing samples prior to going to the electron microscope, and that's had significant growth over the last few years, and for us it forms over half of our business. So I think having multiple products in multiple different areas and not only focusing in one really does help, just spreading that risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think having a network of distributors really helps. So we're only a small business.
Yes.
And having people out there that represent, not represent our products, but sell our products, but are experts in their field as well, really does help. And it's relationship building with those companies to ensure that we're at the top of their list. I think some of the biggest challenges for me has been around having everybody aligned.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you can see where you're heading and you understand it, and maybe the team very close to you understand it. But to take the whole team on that kind of journey to go there, that can be really challenging. So I think the stakeholder management element is incredibly important. Very fortunate that now that the board that I work with are incredibly supportive. The accountability strategy, everything sits within the business. But often, navigating up the chain can be a challenge. So I think having common language, ensuring that people understand how they contribute personally really makes a difference. But that can be a challenge certainly in a very large organisation where you've got multiple stakeholders who perhaps don't have the understanding that the team that you're working with do. So I think in terms of challenges, that's one of the biggest. Yeah. But with culture, if you come into an organisation, perhaps the culture is not what you would want it to be, to change that culture is normally very difficult. But creating an environment where people want to work, and I think that's probably the most important element of being a leader. Yeah.
And as we were saying before, you can implement all of the frameworks you want, or use the consultants you want to use, or whatever it may be, or leverage technology, but unless you have those core fundamentals in place, which clearly you've put in place, then the rest of it can just fall by the wayside, or at least not have anywhere near the same level of impact that you want it to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got to hope that you want a successful business. You want to create value for all of your stakeholders, but you also want to go to work every day and be with people that are pleased to be there. And that makes a difference for everybody. We all spend a lot of time at work.
Yes. Yeah.
So it may as well be somewhere that we want to be.
Yeah, definitely so. And how difficult or simple is it to ensure that when you work with that number of distributors globally, in different territories, different languages, different cultures, that the overriding message and mission of your own organisation doesn't become diluted?
I mean, we've got really good relationships with our distributors. We've gone through a process in the last couple of years of, assessing whether we have the right distributors in place, if our strategies align, but also we keep in regular contact. So we have at least one distributor meeting a year when we bring them all together. We've done, since I arrived at Quorum, we've done 2. So we, it's a time where we're able to share challenges we've had, successes we've had, but also those distributors to speak to each other about the market and what success they've had with our products. We also furnish them significantly with marketing materials and involve them in those things and what's needed for their specific territory. And again, it's all about hopefully being at the top of their list. So when they're going to see customers, they're continuously thinking about Quorum.
Yes, yeah, of course. Okay, so let's think a little bit bigger picture for a moment, if it's okay, and whether it's specifically to Quorum, whether it's specifically to Ultra or other experiences that you've had. For those that sit in the hot seat of businesses, CEO, managing director, through to a global strategy head, but key decision makers, what are some of the big challenges that you've experienced as an individual sitting in that seat through your career?
Oh, there have been many. I think starting, at the front end, understanding the market really well. Clearly, if you won't understand your customers or the trends, then obviously the strategy won't necessarily be in the right direction. I think having some sort of common language across the organisation so people understand their contribution to strategy, because often it's something that people talk about, lovely shiny slides, but if you haven't got any actions to take you there, then really it's a pointless exercise and really expensive. So I think that common language, everybody understanding and being able to communicate clearly where you're going, why you're going there, and how you're going to do it. I think that it sounds very simple, but that ultimately that's the key. In some organisations, things can become very complicated. I don't think they necessarily need to be, but I think taking information and validating it, ensuring that you're making good decisions and regular review is really important. I think depending on how your organisation is organised will depend on how successful you are at that or not.
And again, not speaking specifically about any methodology or us or consulting firms or anything like that, but what are some best practice approaches that you've found over the years and that you continue to find in trying to build and embed that within teams?
So again, for me, everything starts at the market end. What do your customers need?
It's really customer driven.
Exactly.
It's having a customer centric mindset.
Exactly. Understanding what the challenges the customer has, how you would be able to solve those challenges. Other than that, it really comes down to your people. What kind of calibre of personnel are you employing? What kind of obstacles have you got? How quickly can you act?
Yes.
So being really agile is key.
They're the key elements for you.
I think so. Yeah.
And tangibly keeping the team involved in that process, do you look to include them in it? If it's workshop sessions, to take some of those decisions, when it's the review of the strategy, are you looking to involve them in that? Or
so typically everybody in the organisation is involved in some way in strategy. So whether it be reviewing what we've done before internally, reviewing trends in our own manufacture, whether it be assessing the market, speaking to customers, all of that information is gathered by the whole team prior to being, collated and brought together. Ultimately, the senior team sit down and obviously discuss strategy, where we're going, why we're doing, what our plans are, what our priorities are. But I stand up in front of the team every quarter talking about, where we are in terms of finances, but also reminding them what our plan is, where we're going. It's very simple. We focus in the areas of electron microscopy. We focus in areas of sample preparation. We just get better at that. We get better and we do more. So there's lots of different things that we could do. I think being very focused on the things you do and you do really well is important. So.
Yeah, because the phrase we often hear is strategy is as much about what you choose to do as what you choose not to do.
Exactly.
And for you as an organisation and what you're doing today, I can imagine that there are different opportunities which come up to explore different avenues, whether it's related to products, whether it's related to customers. So how do you how does the team keep that relatively singular mindset on this is what we do so well, and this is what we believe is going to take us to the next level.
So we obviously look at other opportunities, and we always take consideration of that, but we identify our markets, we identify our customers, we identify where we are best. So where we do our best work, where we create our best products, and our experience is in electron microscopy. We do coating products, which could be used for lots of different types of industries, but I think focusing on the things you're really good at and making sure that you do them really exceptionally well has to be the place to start. I think once you've captured all of the market, then potentially you might move to other things. With electron microscopy, we focus in areas of sample preparation. We just get better at that. We get better and we do more. So there's lots of different things that we could do. I think being very focused on the things you do and you do really well is important. So.
No, because the phrase we often hear is strategy is as much about what you choose to do as what you choose not to do.
Exactly.
And for you as an organisation and what you're doing today, I can imagine that there are different opportunities which come up to explore different avenues, whether it's related to products, whether it's related to customers. So how do you keep, or how does the team keep that relatively singular mindset on this is what we do so well, and this is what we believe is going to take us to the next level?
So we obviously look at other opportunities, and we always take consideration of that, but we identify our markets, we identify our customers, we identify where we are best. So where we do our best work, where we create our best products, and our experience is in electron microscopy. We do coating products, which could be used for lots of different types of industries, but I think focusing on the things you're really good at and making sure that you do them really exceptionally well has to be the place to start. I think once you've captured all of the market, then potentially you might move to other things. But our market is vast. There's a huge amount of research happening in the world, despite the issues we're currently in the US in terms of funding. There's a lot to go after. So I think reminding the team about where we are, what we do, our customers, our competition, and encouraging people not to necessarily just go after the shiny things. Which I've seen in many many cases.
I'm sure. And with that outlook of the industry and with the challenges but opportunities that within it, what's next for the business, for the organisation?
I think for us, we're going through a programme of research and development, improved products, but also looking at what's next in the industry. Sample preparation hasn't changed too much in terms of technologies. However, there is always new methods of handling, transport, or even integration into larger systems, automation. So I think certainly for us, there's plenty to be developing and supporting going forward.
Is there any impacts that you've seen yet, either from a manufacturing standpoint, or design, of AI and machine learning in what you're doing?
Well, certainly I think every organisation's using AI in some way, whether it be to take meeting notes or to embed in products. I think we haven't taken a leap towards AI in the instrumentation that we provide. However, it could be something that we do in the future, depending on, again, customer requirements. Certainly a lot of, imaging companies embracing AI, so I have no doubt that it will become part of our R&D strategy.
I'm sure. And just to shift over to the topic of customers, because it's something that you've brought up a lot and has really come to the forefront of the conversation. How do you maintain that customer-centric mindset, but then also at the same time, how do you tangibly engage with customers and receive their feedback and their input?
So, we aim to be customers as much as we possibly can. So we spend a lot of time, as I said before, with our distributors.
And that's physically on site with those individuals, with those teams?
That's right, So we travel and we either invite them to our own factory just south of London, or we go and visit them with customers. Ultimately, focusing on those relationships is the thing that really helps us grow the business. we were able to gather information about what challenges their customers are having. Maybe there are different challenges in different territories, different technology requests in different territories, and we try to be as accommodating as we can, but within reason. As a small business, you have to choose what you do as well as choose what you don't do.
Yes, definitely so. And just to finish up, because I don't want to take up too much of your time today, and on the topic of time, how do you, as an individual leading the business, manage your time? Because you need to oversee the elements of the day-to-day operations, the metaphorical fires that are burning, the challenges and opportunities that come up with customers and distributors, the travel, as we just said, you've been traveling a lot recently. So how do you manage that and manage where your attention and focus sits at any given moment in time? Because there's a lot on your plate.
Well, I think I manage it. It's priorities. You know, often we can all get bogged down with the day-to-day, and in actual fact, that's not really where the company needs me to be.
Yes.
I'm very fortunate. I've got an incredibly good senior team, so I do get time to sit and think about where we are, what we need to do. Ultimately, our team and removing their obstacles is the majority of the work that I do personally. But ensuring that we've got really good, solid strategy, ensuring we've got really good, solid budgets, ensuring that we're on track, all of those usual things are a priority. But ultimately, developing relationships within our industry and ensuring that we're hitting the mark for our customer is a really important part of my day. So I personally try to vary what I do, so that I don't, one day you could be fixing an issue in the factory, the next day you may be talking to an OEM about an issue that they have or a new development that they want to collaborate on. I think all of those things, the priorities really depend on what you need to do on that particular day at that particular time.
Absolutely. Well, look, on that note, as I said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so really appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and really interesting conversation to dig into more detail about the world of electron microscopy. So really appreciate the time, and look forward to speaking further soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.